Welcome to the fourth in the series that we call the Atlanta Tribune TNT, stand for Technology Tips and Tricks webinar series. I'm your host, Brent Leary, and I'm very glad to bring you something that I know you guys have been really interested in because I've taken a couple of surveys, and we've had some great sessions over the last 3 or 4 months, but I've been surveying you, asking you what topics, what subjects are you really interested in? And the one that seems to always come at the top is you want to learn more about how to leverage LinkedIn to be able to really engage customers and prospects. So tonight we're going to do just that. And I am fortunate enough to have joining us tonight Chuck Hester. Now, Chuck does a lot of different things, but one thing he is really well known for is LinkedIn. He's a LinkedIn power user. Chuck has over 12,000 LinkedIn connections, which is unbelievable. And not only does he know his way around LinkedIn and has used it to build that kind of contact base, he's written a book on the subject of LinkedIn called Linking In to Pay It Forward, Changing the Value Proposition in Social Media. So Chuck is a LinkedIn expert. He's a social media guru. He's currently a VP of marketing at a company called Relevant Ads. And before I turn it over to Chuck, I want to do a couple of house cleaning items. So like usual, folks, let me get that going there. Good. So here I'm in the middle of the introduction. It's a little bit of housekeeping things. We're still using the hashtag Tribune TNT. So if you have any questions and you like using Twitter, go ahead and toss those questions out. Use that hashtag Tribune TNT. I'm going to be looking out for it. And at the point where we're able to do some Q&A with Chuck after he does his formal presentation, I'm going to be starting to pull from there. Or if you want to use the Q&A window right here and go to webinar, you can do that as well. You can even leave it at Facebook. Our Facebook page is at facebook.com/technologyforbusinesssake. And, you know, like us if you would, that would be great. And so there's so many different ways that you can leave your comments and your questions. Just go ahead and do it, because we're going to try to answer as many as possible before 8 o'clock comes. One other note I wanted to bring to your attention, the Atlanta Tribune will be doing the third installment, I believe the third installment for 2013, of the Moving Your Business Forward Conference. It's always lots of great information, great speakers, great insight, and if you have the opportunity, it's actually more like the morning part from 9 to 1, so it's not the whole day, but save that part of the day and join us on October 25th, and be on the lookout. Go to atlantatribune.com for information as it becomes available, as we get more information on speakers and things like that. But make sure you keep that date open for moving your business forward. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about before I hand it over to Chuck is we have a really cool giveaway for folks who participate in the webinar tonight. Our buddy John Colder Ice Lawson, you should remember him. He's spoken at a lot of those Moving Your Business Forward events, and he also did a great webinar on e-commerce a few months back. So John is having his, I think this is his second annual ICE retailer event. It's a day-long event. Actually, there's a little reception on the 20th. This is a Friday, but the full day really takes place on the 21st. It's a Saturday, so if you have a lot of work to do on the weekdays, you can't get out from it, this is perfect for you. The full day long, anything you wanted to know about e-commerce, social commerce, mobile commerce, this is a great event. It retails for $249. John is giving me 4 free passes to give out tonight. So what I'd like for you to do is ask grid questions, post them on Facebook or Twitter, and the best questions, we're gonna hook you up. We're gonna get you a pass to this event. This is a really cool thing that John did. So keep that in mind. Don't be bashful. Ask good good questions, leave good comments, and you might just get a chance to go to a really cool conference, day long, $249, all about e-commerce, social commerce, mobile commerce, from the experts. You really can't beat that. So I think I've set the stage for tonight's webinar. Once again, the person leading the discussion tonight on LinkedIn is Chuck Hester. I mentioned that he literally wrote the book on using LinkedIn. He's a power user, and he's a social media person, so he can really get us going on making the most out of our LinkedIn profile. So Chuck, without further ado, I think you have access to start moving the screens. The floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you everybody in Atlanta. I was talking to Brent earlier. I'm going to be down there next week for the Social Shakeup Conference that's coming up, so I want to get a chance to potentially meet you guys in person if you're interested. I'm always liking to meet new people that way. A couple of quick things about who I am and what I've got going on. I'm VP of Marketing at Relevant Ads Local Splash, and that is a local SEO company. In a nutshell, what we do is we help small and local businesses get on the maps on Google, Yahoo, Bing, and actually work with them on AdWords campaigns and websites. So I've been actively involved with small business marketing for a long time. I'm also the Chief Connections Officer at Chuck Hester Enterprises. Do a lot of LinkedIn consulting and one-on-one training on LinkedIn. So if that's of interest, I'll give you my information later on for that as well. And like Brent mentioned, I am a LinkedIn power user of more than 12,000, actually 500 first-level connections. Do not try this at home. I do it for a variety of reasons, mainly because I train on LinkedIn and help a lot of people on LinkedIn. I'm also a pay-it-forward advocate, and you'll see that information as you go along. I really am actively involved in helping other people. So having 12,000 connections, I have 11,999 people that can help that one person who comes to me and says they need help. Something really cool to be able to do. I've been in marketing and public relations for over 30 years. As a matter of fact, my trademark is I'm just a PR guy. I always have been, probably always will be. I really enjoy marketing, PR, social media. Social media, by the way, I believe is just a tool in the toolkit of marketing. You really need to understand marketing principles to survive. In my book, Linking Into Pay It Forward, Changing the Value Proposition in Social Media, I'll explain what the value proposition change is there so you can get a feel for that. Really what it comes down to is being able to ask somebody how you can be of service to them as opposed to what they can do for you. So like I said, we'll get into that. We'll start talking a little further on that. So what I'm hoping, by the way, is that you're not that first picture there. You're not the squirrel folks here. I'll go back here. That basically are trying to do other things and multitasking while you're listening to me, and they're kind of bored as to what's going on. But I'm hoping at the end of the day and the evening for you guys that you'll be these guys where you're standing up, applauding, and really enjoying what I've got to offer. So look forward to that. First of all, a couple of things just to kind of set the stage. The social media as an just basic overview. Facebook has 1 billion plus users these days. To put it in perspective, 3 billion photos uploaded every single day. With LinkedIn, 240 million users, 1 new member per second. I think they may be actually up to 2 new members per second. That's how fast that's growing. With Twitter, 1 billion tweets posted per week. It just gets crazy, and Twitter has become really a kind of a news outlet, if you will. I was watching CNBC the other night on Twitter, and they talked about the fact that with the crash on the Hudson, that's actually went out on Twitter first before it hit the news stations. So things like that happen on a regular basis. And YouTube, 24 hours worth of video posted every single minute. I have my take on that is probably 22 and a half hours of it isn't worth it. But that's just my opinion. I don't like cats. So that's what that comes down to. So let's talk specifically about LinkedIn. Like I mentioned, 240 million active users. It was founded in 2003, probably one of the oldest social networks out there that's still surviving and actually thriving and doing very well. They went public a couple years ago and have since done amazingly well with their stock. More interested for the folks who are trying to do business development. There's over 1.7 million user groups and forums. Why is that important? Well, we'll get specific into it later on, but really what it means to you is you have 1.7 million groups on LinkedIn that you can mine for prospects, and you can take a look based on your keywords, trying to figure out what you're looking for. It is not just a job seeker's, recruiter's home. It is really for sales, customer service, marketing, C-level executives, small business owners. I've done everything from refinance my house through a connection on LinkedIn to my wife, who's a speaker as well, finding the correct shoes you need to wear so she can do 6-hour seminars. So it really doesn't matter who you are and what you've got going on. Let's shatter a few myths about LinkedIn, and then we'll get into the meat of the presentation. LinkedIn is for job seekers. In fact, it is not. While it does include job seekers, the majority of the users are not actively seeking a job. They are in a business marketplace wanting to have business connections and business relationship. Important to folks who are trying to attract the customers they're looking for. It doesn't attract big companies. That's not accurate either. More than 40% of LinkedIn's users work in firms with more than 10,000 employees. Now, if you want to take it the other way around, that means more than 60,000 or 60% of LinkedIn's users are small and medium-sized businesses. So that's a good thing as far as that goes as well. And LinkedIn members aren't high-level execs or prospects. Well, in fact, more than 50% of the members hold the title of manager, director, owner, chief executive officer. And this information, all of this information here, by the way, is directly from LinkedIn and their LinkedIn blog. So some interesting thing. What we're going to do, and I'm going to go rather rapidly, so save your questions and I'll try to get to them. And if I can't answer them tonight, I'm the type of person that if you email me questions, I'll be more than happy to one-on-one answer questions for you as well. But we're going to walk through some features that are important. If you don't have a good foundation for these features and understand how to use them, it's going to be difficult for you to really take advantage of LinkedIn. So we'll talk about the homepage, account settings, your profile, a people search, how to correctly invite people into your network, groups that you want to join, company pages, which is now going on steroids. It's really being a very significant feature within LinkedIn. And then finally, an area that a lot of people don't know about, and that's the status update. So I'll walk quickly through all of these, and like I said, at the end, we'll be more than happy to take questions and talk further about specifics that you may have. So, starting with the homepage, a couple of things to know. It's the entry point for the application. If you work for a small, medium, or large company, it really is important that you're able to use the homepage. It offers you a snapshot of all the function that you're going to look at. It also eliminates the need for separate email notifications. Can take up work time for you or your employees and staff. So if you want them to be on LinkedIn, have them log into LinkedIn as opposed to trying to get email notifications on an hourly or daily basis. That makes the difference. Let me go back there real quick. I'm still working as we go. So we look at the account settings. This is a dashboard. This is where really you need to take a look at that. And I'll use this caveat too, by the way. You really need to understand that for Facebook or Twitter, you need to go into their notification settings as well. Set your security levels and take a look at that. You recommend settings for your company use, so you can opt into individual, digest, or web-only notifications, and that can make a difference. Privacy settings are located here. The difference between Facebook and LinkedIn, the number one difference is you are in control. You set the privacy settings ahead of time. You set the default to what you want to look at, as opposed to Facebook. And Facebook execs has actually been quoted as saying, you know, let's just try something and we'll ask forgiveness later from our users. And several times they've had to redact what they've done. So very important for that as far as that goes. So this is the account settings, and here's where you're going to find it. Your little icon on the upper right-hand side, your picture. If you click on that, the drop-down button will come down, and you can see the different areas that you're going to be looking at. You also, from there, we can take a look at this information. When you click on the account setting, this is what comes up. So everything from your profile to your communications, your groups and applications, you can take a look at this correctly right here. It's all information that you want to look at. And we're going to click on, in particular, this one section and talk about setting the frequency of the email and within the communications. Once you click on that, if you notice, you now have members and other members, how they can get in touch with you, how you get your updates and news. And here's the drop-down I was talking about. Within groups, for instance, you can get a daily digest, a weekly digest, or no email at all. And then it's up to you to go on to LinkedIn and find that information within the groups that you're a member of. So it does make a difference. And again, you are in control of what you've got going on. So the next thing we're going to talk about is your profile. There's a really good-looking guy named Brent Leary that I'm using as an example as far as the type of profile that you would normally see. Brent, I would have a tendency to do a quick makeover for you. One of the things you want to look at, in particular, if you see it says Partner CRM Essentials, LinkedIn is an SEO engine, meaning that you need to use search engine optimization terms so that people can find you within this search bar up here. So you would want to, in fact, have more along the lines of a description of CRM, guru, expert, executive, whatever you want to call it, and that can make the difference. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. And this is my profile. So you see a marketing consultant, LinkedIn speaker, trainer, social media master. In fact, I've had people who actually have typed in LinkedIn speaker and found my profile and then hired me to speak. So it does make a difference. This is in the edit mode as far as your LinkedIn profile. So you, again, are in control. Anytime you see a pencil next to a section, that means you actually can edit, and all you need to do is click in order to edit. The other cool feature that we've got here is that you can, in your summary, for instance, you can edit it. You can now add video. That's what that little television box is. But here's the hidden secret that a lot of people don't know. If you notice there's an up and down arrow, any section within your profile that has an up and down arrow, you can move that section to emphasize whatever you want to emphasize. If you did not want to have a summary first, and in fact you wanted to have the number of recommendations you have in that information, you could change those basically to decide which one comes first on your profile. The other thing that they've changed, and overall, do understand, LinkedIn is, in fact, real estate, just like any website. There's only a certain amount of places they can put things, so they've changed a lot of things over the last several years. And the one in particular is the edit the contact information, or the contact information that you've got. So if you, in fact, see this right here, where it says edit contact information, take your time and look at this, because then you want to go into here, and you do a drop down, and then you're able to actually edit your contact information as you go. Notice on the websites I've got Pay It Forward blog, which is my blog, my Maven profile, my LinkedIn tips, which is a separate website that actually has tips on LinkedIn. You can name whatever you want to call those three websites. Instead of saying company, personal, other, you can actually go in and make those changes using that little pencil and making those changes as you go. And if you have not, by the way, grabbed your name for LinkedIn. Mine is linkedin.com/n/Chuck Hester. A lot easier for people to find as opposed to a bunch of numbers, and it does make a difference. So take some time, review your profile, think of your profile as your user or your potential prospect might be searching for you. So what terms would they be using in order to find you or your services or your company, and sprinkle those terms all the way through your profile. It does make a difference. So a couple of tips for you real quick. Use your picture. I don't want to talk to a Ford logo. I want to talk to Scott Monty or Colder Ice or whomever I may be talking to. It's about connecting with the person. Social media is very social, and it really isn't about necessarily talking to a brand. I want to talk to that person one-on-one. LinkedIn in particular, because it's a business marketplace, you're talking as if you were in the same room with them at a conference or a Chamber of Commerce meeting or whatever it may be. So treat your connections like they're standing right in front of you. Also, take advantage of the gas gauge to complete your profile. On LinkedIn, they will give you tips on how to complete your profile to 100%, and at that point in time, that gas gauge goes away as you develop it. Make sure you have your organizational website URL and personalize it, as I mentioned. So my Pay It Forward blog is listed as such. LinkedIn Tips is listed. Make it so it's more personal and people can look for it from search firms. And then people always ask me the question, I have 100 plus some odd recommendations. How do you build recommendations that are then listed on your LinkedIn profile? The best way to do it is to build recommendations by recommending others first. And while you're recommending somebody, you can send them a quick email that's part of that recommendation process and ask them at the end, if you feel so led or if you are comfortable, then please recommend me as well. And it works. 90% of the people that I've always dealt with have recommended me back when I recommend them first. Okay, so people search. LinkedIn, as I mentioned, is 240 million members strong. That means you have a database of 240 people, 240 million people that you can go after. And now they've changed the functionality some, so if you notice on the drop-down box there on the search bar, it now can search for people, jobs, companies, groups, universities, even your inbox, all in one place. The best way that you need to use LinkedIn search, however, is with that little advanced button that I've got up here, and you want to click on advanced, and when you do, we will move over. And then you have this advanced people search. So if you notice, you can look at keywords, first and last names, titles, companies, where they were located, put in a zip code. I mean, it's simple as that. 92629 zip code for Southern California, they can help you find the people you're looking for. You can also look at industries, past companies, schools, profiles, the whole 9 yards. Some of this, by the way, where you see this IN symbol, the IN symbol there in yellow, that is for folks who pay for it. I do pay for it because I work with it on a regular basis. I can actually teach folks and I consult with on how to use it without having to pay for it. It just depends on what you're involved with. And you can also look at jobs and an advanced search there as well. As I mentioned, keywords that you can take a look at. So we'll move on. The next one we'll talk about is contacts. This becomes your database. So once you connect with somebody, then you can actually go up to, they now have it under a drop-down called interests, where where network, where it's actually connections, add your connections, find alums, that type of thing. And that's where you're going to find your contacts within LinkedIn. So you take a look at this, you click on contacts, and they have changed this significantly. So now you're able to actually do several really cool things that you didn't do before. But most importantly, I mean, you can search based on this information here, where you can look on your day. So what they offer to you is people who have changed jobs the day before. Somebody has a birthday, somebody has a new position, whatever it may be, milestones that then you could potentially reach out to those contacts and have a reason to talk to them and continue a dialogue. The other thing that they're starting to do is, if you notice here, there's a little Gmail symbol here. Anytime I have a email conversation, it is somebody I'm connected with on LinkedIn, it will show up here in this database. So a day ago, I talked to Paul Gillen, and they were able to say, yeah, you had a email conversation with them. The other thing it would do is, if I were to click on Paul's profile right here and go to his profile, I would actually see that contact information, including a reference to the email that I actually sent out to him as well. So this little button is allowing you to slice and dice as you'd like it. You can look at it alphabetically by company, location. If you haven't talked to somebody in several months, they fall in the lost touch section. So you can go back and say, hey, you know what, I want to talk to people I haven't talked for at least 6 months. I can go back, hit that button, and then I can start having further conversations with them. And let's go into the LinkedIn invitation process. A couple of things you really need to know. Never send out a generic invitation. Always personalize your invitation based on what I call commonalities. So if you were going to be talking to somebody, this is a really cool way to take 5 minutes, find Brent Leary's profile, see that he's actively involved in Atlanta politics, and mention that in the invitation. You're going to have a better chance of him accepting that invitation right away. As I mentioned, the value proposition change is simply this: ask what you can do for your connections. So you start out with, how can I help you? That's probably the best way to go. Don't go into a relationship expecting something, but change that value proposition. And you can also connect directly with fellow group members without an email address. So if you share another commonality, which is a group together, you can actually connect directly with them or message them and suggest they want to connect with you. So it's a nice way to get involved with that. So I'm not sure what the age of the audience is here, Brent, but I'm going to take a shot. I don't know how many people remember this. This guy is the unknown comic, and this is the best way I can describe the invitation process from a generic standpoint. If you were to go into a Chamber of Commerce meeting with a bag on your head, no business cards whatsoever, no name tag, and you walked up to somebody and said, hey, I'd like to do business with you, would you give me your business card? They'd probably walk away from you. It's very similar to this, which is, and no apologies to the New York life salesman out there, but somebody knocking on the door trying to sell you life insurance without any introduction whatsoever. LinkedIn is about community. If I move into a community, I'm a New York life salesman, I would probably walk next door and introduce myself as the neighbor next door, spend a couple of months getting to know people before I'd even mention the fact that I sell New York Life. You really just need to build up that relationship before you do what is known as the ask. Okay, so here's a couple of examples. These I get on a regular basis. This is Chris Francis. He happens to work for my company, but I'm using his as an example. I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. That's the generic boilerplate that LinkedIn gives you that you can send out. If I didn't know Chris, and I do know Chris, if I didn't know Chris, I might say no, because I have no clue as to why he wants to meet me or connect with me directly. So that does make a difference. This one, on the other hand, which is one that came in from another Brent a little while back. I enjoyed watching your training video on LinkedIn. I'd be honored to connect and acquire more tips. That's specific information. Talks about the fact that he saw one of my videos, wants to learn more. I mean, I'm going to accept that invitation right away. So that is the commonalities that you look for and reasons to connect. So let's move on to groups, because groups, in my estimation, is probably one of the most underutilized marketing tools that LinkedIn has to offer. So we'll take a look at this. It changes the function, makes it more powerful than it's ever been before. If you're interested in becoming a subject matter expert and creating a group for your company, I can definitely show you how to do that, but it's a three-step connection process to do that. Available for all the group members, forums and discussions. So you can go in there and start forums and discussions around your service area. So we're involved actively in local SEO. We have a local SEO group with relevant ads that we run on LinkedIn, and we talk specifically about local marketing and how to help local businesses market. So it's a great way for us to promote our brand. It's also a great way to interact with customers and potential customers. How do you do that? One of the ways that you do that, if you have a list of customers or companies that you want to look at their profiles. Towards the bottom of their profile, it should list the groups that they're members of. So if you're trying to get in touch with the VP of purchasing, say for IBM, and he's a member of X group, then go join that group, become part of the discussion, and he can see that you've got activity going on. At the same time, you can send an invite and say, you know what, I'm a member of this group and so are you. Let's connect and talk personally one-on-one. So this is where you're going to find the group, again, within interests. They have companies, groups, influencers, and education. Influencers, by the way, is LinkedIn Today, and more information. They're now having folks like Richard Branson blog on a regular basis with small articles that they put out. But go to the groups section, which is right there, and then you can see the groups that you're a member of. But there's also a way to find new groups that you want to look at, and that's over here at the advanced search section. So if you click on advanced, and then we're going to move to the next slide on that. And then it comes back to the advanced people search, but you can also click on for groups in the advanced section right here. And it is one more step that they've added. But once you've done that, then it will take you to this next slide. And then this basically comes into where you can find within advanced, you can see the group members that you're members of, and you also get a chance to see where the groups are. So click on groups there. And we're moving a little slow, but that's okay. And then this becomes the search section for groups. And as you see, 1.786 million groups are out there and available. They will be listed by the most popular groups as far as that goes. If you see this one in particular, job opening, job leads, has 1.4 million members. That's kind of crazy. But if you were to type in here and search groups and type in, say, local SEO, you would probably find 85 groups or so, and then you can decide the ones you want to join. And you can click on them and take a look at them before you have to join. You can join up to 50 groups. My suggestion, because it is a community, and once you join, you really should be part of them, I would suggest no more than 10 to 12 groups that you're a member of, because you want to stay actively involved and visible. So that's groups. And we are moving forward. So let's talk about company pages. Company pages have changed significantly. I consider company pages, if you're familiar with the term, really kind of a marketing landing page and adjacent to your website. So it really is a very cool way. Excellent place to promote your business and products and services. It's an online brochure to a certain extent. It's also a great recruiting tool as well. Jobs can be listed on the page in addition to the LinkedIn jobs section. So if you have jobs available, they will show up on your page. And users can now follow your company, recommend your company, and share information. So it allows folks to actually get involved with the company. And it's automatically listed on your personal profile, so it drives traffic to your website as well. And do understand that now with the fact that you can have a company follow, you can follow companies as well. So if there are key target companies that you are looking to get involved with or do business with, then follow their company page. So you see when they add new products or services. If you're a job seeker, you see when new people are hired or people are no longer there, it will actually show up on the company page. So let's take a couple of examples. Here's the Atlanta Tribune, the magazine company page. And as you see here, the yellow follow button, you can take a look at it. Look at the 47 some odd followers that they've got. When you are on this page, you can actually see how you are connected to the folks. For me, I've got two second-degree connections within the Atlanta Tribune. Here's an example of an amazing company page that I really like a lot. I use on a regular basis as a great example. This is State Farm Insurance. And believe it or not, this is an interactive video that's a slideshow that you can actually take a look at. And as you see, you can click back and forth on the buttons. It talks about the different services that they provide. If you were to click on this blue link right here and this was clickable, then it actually would go to the service that you're looking for. But here's the cool thing I wanted to show you in particular on this one. If you notice, this is not this, and you can recommend and share products and services, but this is the one I wanted to show you. Notice here it says quote now. You can actually click on that slide and it will take you to a landing page on the State Farm website where you can then fill out a request for a quote for insurance. So this in fact does become a very, very good a page that you can use as a marketing brochure. Status update is one of my favorite things. I put out a LinkedIn tip of the day Monday through Friday most of the time, but about 5 to 6 days a week I'm putting this out. It's a Twitter-like feature that allows you to promote your brand and drive more traffic. In fact, it is 140 characters. It's a nice way to put out timely and low-key marketing messages. If, in fact, you do have a Twitter account as well, I suggest that you link your LinkedIn account to your Twitter account. And here's why. Because when you do 140 characters and you click a button, and I'll show you where it is, you can actually send it over to Twitter at the same time. Your organizational profile among the LinkedIn community and its followers is raised because they're going to be able to see your LinkedIn status updates on their homepage. And I'll show you where that is in a second. It will also appear on your profile as well as the home pages of your followers. So in fact, folks can look at your status updates when they first get a chance to see it. So here's one that I wrote out, which is tip of the day. Follow your prospects LinkedIn company page to keep up on updates and initiatives, my hashtag LITIF, so LinkedIn tip. But if you notice, I said LinkedIn plus Twitter, and I share that automatically goes to both of my social networks. So you can take a look at this. And here's one I did in particular to show you where it shows up, a different tip. But now you see it's right here as a LinkedIn tip on the top of my profile on my homepage, and my followers will see that information. If you were to click on show more updates here, you would actually see a bunch more of my followers and what they've got going on with that. So this is a really cool place. It's right next to your picture. Type in what you want to type in. And one thing I should mention to you too, not only can you share it with the public in Twitter, you could potentially just share it with LinkedIn if you wanted to, but this drop-down also allows you to share it with groups that you're a member of, and it can go right into a group discussion. And if you do share it with just a LinkedIn network, it's not 140 characters. It can be several paragraphs if you want it to be. But the little tidbits really make a difference, and they're very quick, very easy to do. And you also notice here you can like it, you can comment on it, and you can share it on a regular basis. These LinkedIn tips are commented on or shared by other people, so it propagates the information out for me and for my followers. So let me walk through a couple of things, and then we'll wrap up and take some questions. First of all, LinkedIn your professional brand, because LinkedIn really is a professional business social network. It's not Facebook. It's not about what type of stuffed grape leaves you had for dinner or the type of vacation you're going on with your kids. It is about business. So keep in mind several things. First of all, you need to be transparent. I can find out anything I want about anybody thanks to the internet age. So you really need to be the same person across all of the different social networks that you're involved with. As I mentioned to you earlier, treat your connections like they're physically right in front of you. be respectful. Understand that you are not hiding behind a computer screen. You really need to treat them like it's a one-on-one conversation, and you will get a lot more interest and information as a result. And do understand, if you're open to the opportunities, they will come. So if you, in fact, are open in the community, share a lot of information, set yourself up as a subject matter expert or talk specifically about your products or services, people will be interested in connecting with you. And be consistent in your contacts. Don't be somebody that's for a VP of marketing that's different than if that person happens to be a receptionist. It's the same person all the way through. I want to deal with somebody consistently because I'll find out the differences as you go along. And don't number munch. This is coming from a guy who's got 12,500 connections, but like I said, I do it for a different reason. How many connections do you need? 500 to 1,000 max. I would say you would be fine. And stay in touch with your networks in that regard. You should be okay with that. So don't try to just rack up numbers and take anybody that wants to connect with you. And be careful about who you connect with. Watch out for the generic connections. Also, another red flag is to watch out for people who may send you a LinkedIn invitation and they have 0 or 3 or 5 connections. They're probably just looking to grab email addresses and then you get spammed afterwards. It happens on a regular basis, so you need to be careful of that. As I mentioned earlier, be part of the community. You really need to have an interactive dialogue, and it is a dialogue these days. One slide that I use in a presentation is, basically you've got to be a big ear as opposed to a bullhorn, and that's what it really comes down to. You need to listen first, understand who you're talking to, and be part of the community and part of a dialogue and a discussion. So let's wrap up with the most common mistakes in using LinkedIn, and then we'll go from there. I'm a big Dave Letterman fan, so that's part of it. LinkedIn and all social media is about a community, not marketing. Don't sell. Have a conversation, and as a result, you will get the business as it comes in because people trust you and trust your brand. Don't be something you're not. Social media is about transparency, so truly be who you are. And like I mentioned earlier, listen, don't broadcast. You need to really have a conversation, and frankly, I do this on Twitter, for instance. I have a five tweet rule where I will basically retweet somebody 5 times before I ask them to do that for me. So I always go through and look for retweets that I can do more often than I do broadcast information about what I'm trying to get across. And avoid flooding your media network with marketing messages. You can do that on a regular basis, but for instance, on a status bar, maybe once a day max that you want to put it out, maybe 3 times a week, information that might be of interest to your network and who you're got. And then once you've established a relationship, don't abuse it for your marketing and PR purposes. Don't connect with somebody and then all of a sudden turn right back around and say, now that we're connected, can you send this information out? Or let me tell you about the New York Life Insurance policy that I'm trying to sell to you. A couple more and then we'll move on. I believe, as I mentioned earlier, that social media is a tool. It's live by the tool, die by the tool is what it looked like. There's several social media networks that are out there that are no longer really viable, and ones that have become viable. Twitter is moving in that direction to be more viable. I believe Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube will probably be around for a long time. I'm not sure where Pinterest may go. That's another discussion for later on when we meet in person in Atlanta. But really, social media is a tool within the marketing toolkit. So be careful not to hook your stars, so to speak, just to one in particular. I have consulting clients on a regular basis who come to me and say, I want to be on Twitter and you need to help me do that. My first answer back to them is, so where is your marketing plan, and let's work on that first. So it really comes down to that. And the other part of that is, at the end of the day, you need to measure results, so keep that in mind when using social media. Understand where your audience is and where your customers live, and then figure out how you are working it through. If you are starting a company page, look at the number of followers you start with and decide, is that important that you add more followers to your company page, or is it more important that you have people who are sharing your content? You need to decide what that looks like so you can evaluate, or your boss, for instance, whether or not this is actually worth the effort. And personalize your company by having real people, not logos, be part of the dialogue. I could rattle off a number of names, including Scott Monty for Ford and several other people who are known for being a Ford employee, but they're still a personal one-on-one person that you deal with on a regular basis, and that's the way people prefer to deal with brands. And again, I can't emphasize this enough, always remember it's all about the dialogue And then finally, a caution tale that I will tell you: set aside a specific amount of time for social media, otherwise you'll get lost. And basically, the best way to describe that is I had a consulting client who I taught how to use LinkedIn, and I checked in with them the following day, and I said, so how'd it go? What'd you do on LinkedIn? So I've been on LinkedIn all day long. It's really cool. You can get lost. You can get lost in social media very easily. You need to set aside 15 to 20 minutes a day. As a matter of fact, let's talk about 15 minutes a day. Here's how to be a power connector in that 15 minutes. Connect with the connectors. When I first started out, I had 37 connections, all in Raleigh, North Carolina, in marketing and advertising, because that's where I was headed and looking for a job. What I did after that was I connected with the top 100 folks who are connected on LinkedIn. There's a list, and I believe it's called the LinkedIn 100, but you can look it up on Google. And I invited every single one of those people to connect. 99 of them said yes. And then from that, I took 5 of their connections, and that was my commonality. I know Brent very well from Atlanta. I want to connect with him directly, and built my network that way. It was the old shampoo commercial of tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. It becomes a pyramid, and you actually are able to build things up. So then post your profile in key groups. As soon as you join a group, introduce yourself. Tell them who you are, what you're all about, why you're excited to be in the group, and offer to connect with those folks directly. A lot of people will do that as well. And always, always, always personalize your invitations. If I get generic invitations, I'm either going to email them back and say, can you tell me more about why you want to connect with me, how I can help you, or I'll just ignore them. And by the way, if you get an IDK, which is an I don't know, 5 times, you can get either on probation or kicked off the LinkedIn network as well. And ask a contact if they're linked. You go to a chamber of commerce meeting, you go to a conference, wherever it may be, always ask them if they're on LinkedIn, because then you all of a sudden have a commonality. I met you when I was down for the conference in Atlanta. We got a chance to talk. Let's connect directly on LinkedIn. It's always a great way to do that. And then answer your invitations in a timely but reasonable manner. And what is timely? 3 to 4 days approximately. And do understand, you use that same rule of thumb on the other way around. If you send an invitation out to somebody and they haven't answered you in a 24-hour period, then give them some time to answer that invitation before you send out a reminder or bug them again. I mean, it does make a big difference for you. Okay? So real quick on the business development side, organizational websites on your profile and personalize your URL. Actively promote your organizations and services through status updates. That's one place you can market a little less subtly, if you will. Invite current and potential customers to connect directly. If you have a business meeting, ask them to be a LinkedIn connection for you. And also join groups, as I mentioned earlier, where your prospects and customers live, and be part of the discussion. They can see that you're actively involved with where they're involved. And then finally, use LinkedIn to connect with current potential customers when you travel. Every time I go to a city like Atlanta, for instance, I've already contacted a lot of different people down in the area to try and get together and meet for dinner or drinks, or just in person. So the areas that you want to concentrate for business development success on LinkedIn, make sure your profile is up to date and it's relevant and it's searchable. The other thing is your people search. You've got, as I mentioned earlier, 240 million prospects out there, and you just need to slice and dice that database. Your invitations need to be timely. They need to be specific and personalized. And status updates, again, I can't emphasize status updates enough. They're a lot of fun. You can actually put in links to press releases, for that matter, or for a new feature on your website, whatever it may be. It can make a difference. Groups, go hang out in groups and have a lot of fun. Company pages, that's one of the things I do consult on, is building company pages, as well as group development as well. So spend some time on a company page and learn how to use it. And then once you've used it, make sure you keep it up to date. That's probably the most important thing I can tell you in that regard. So with that, I think I'm there. Yes, I am. So Brent, I'm going to turn it back over to you for questions, and I think we're in good shape. And by the way, this is my book, and you can check it out there. And here's how you can get in touch with me. I'm Chuck Hester all over the place. Just come find me. I'll be more than happy to connect. My favorite thing to say is, if I will answer your invitation very quickly if you just say, basically put this information in, which is, Chuck, your presentation rocked. I had a great time. Thanks. And Brent, are you still there?
Can you hear me okay?
I can now, yes.
Great. Yeah, I had myself on mute.
That's
I
fine.
wanted to make sure I was so typing so furiously. I didn't want to have my fingers, competing with all the great information you were giving. That
No
was
problem.
awesome, Chuck. We really appreciate it. We have a couple of questions, and the people, if you want to, we're getting some rolling in. That's great. So keep them rolling in. The first one, Chuck, that I want to touch on, that I
Sure.
really like this question from Ernest Ball. How much value is there in gaining endorsements, and which are more valuable, recommendations or endorsements?
Recommendations, without a doubt. Endorsements. I'm on the. There's two schools of thought. I'm on a school of thought that endorsements are, in fact, a way for LinkedIn to try to build traffic into their site. I think they're kind of like a like on Facebook, if you will. Concentrate on the recommendations. When I do consulting gigs or I do speaking engagements, I will actually do cut and paste on my recommendations directly from LinkedIn or point them directly to recommendations so that they can actually see what's going on. Endorsements are really quick. There's no meat or information behind them. So endorsements are fine. Unfortunately, now they become somewhat of a numbers game, if you will. They now limit them to 99 plus. Once you get 99 endorsements, then 100 endorsements, it stops saying how many you have. They ran into that originally with LinkedIn. That's why you have 500 plus on your connections. So long story short, recommendations definitely over endorsements.
Very good. Ernest, if you are interested, I'd love to give you a free ticket to John Lawson's ICE retailer event on September 21st. So let me know if you're interested, and I'll make sure you get in for free. That was a great question. Z Price, I'm a freelancer. How do I stand out, build my brand without seeming like a pest, since I am promoting myself rather than a company or service?
Well, the best way I can describe that for you is in fact, I always consider LinkedIn profiles. LinkedIn is really a online portfolio as opposed to an online resume. And what they've done now with profiles is really good for you as a freelancer because you can add portfolio information, you can show web pages, you can show videos, all kinds of really cool multimedia that you can add to that. So if you've worked on certain projects and you have that portfolio PDFs or whatever it may be, or back to a website, add those to your profile, and then you can promote as you finish a project. For instance, I would add it to your profile and then go out to a group and say, hey, just finished a really cool project. I'd love to have you take a look at it. Click over here in my profile and take a look at this piece. A great way for freelancers to promote themselves.
Very good. That's great. Some great advice there. Michelle Marshall, this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
I'm in the insurance industry in my full-time job, but my startup business is an online retail store. Do you suggest setting up multiple LinkedIn pages if you don't want your connects from one industry crossing over from your connects in another industry? And since you are have an online retail store, if you can make it on the 21st.
Yeah, I was going to say, she needs to go see John.
Yeah, you really need to be at the ICE retailer event on September 21st. So if you can make it, it's a Saturday. If you can make it, we will give you a free pass for that.
There you go.
What do you say about that question?
I'm really an advocate for one profile. What I would strongly suggest is if, in fact, on your online presence, you have a website and you have a particular email address you can use, you can set up a company page. So I would suggest an online profile for your professional insurance day-to-day work that you do, and a company page for your online work that you do as separate, so that you can have people follow that company and follow your online retail that you're doing, which is separate from the actual profile that you do, which is more of a day-to-day, day job, quote-unquote, professional profile.
Very good. Thank you. Interesting question from J.W. Shepard. Do you find that LinkedIn is currently being bombarded with individuals not seeking work-related items, but social connections?
So that's more along the lines of the numbers munching, I assume. I do believe there's folks out there who are just really trying to get as many connections as they possibly can. The job seekers, it's a little difficult. They still are the #1 job seeker. They've overtaken Monster in that regard as far as places for finding jobs. But yeah, I think there's a mix to a certain extent. But I truly believe it's still a business professional marketplace and a place for business dialogue more than job seekers.
Very good. Interesting question from D. Dean. I guess he means I have the LinkedIn app on iPad, and it has a different configuration than what you spoke of. How can I get help with navigation?
Actually, yeah, no, I know what you're talking about because I've got LinkedIn on my Android phone, my smartphone, and LinkedIn is doing great strides in all of their features. And their mobile team is somewhat different than their online, computer team that they work with. So you're going to see differences because they're, lack of a better way to put it, trying to catch up with what is online and the new features that are on the major website that you see. That being said, you just need to adapt to what they have available there, and then decide if that's where you want to work with is on the iPad. I believe they have a pretty good help section within I'm not an iPad user, but within the iPad you should be able to get help from that. If not, email customer service app. That's one place, but you can also go on the main LinkedIn website, and there is a customer service section where you can ask your questions for help on navigation.
Cole Parker wants to know if you can use an HTML editor in designing your company page, or use HTML.
I believe you can. My technical skills are such that my favorite line on speeches is I always say I can't even spell HTML. But that being said, I believe you can. I know for a fact you can set up images and make them clickable. But I think it's something you're just going to have to kind of play with as you go along. But you should be able to do that.
Cool. I'm going to say Dante, or is it Dante Brown? Sorry if I kind of mess it up a little bit. Dante asks, I will retire from the military in June. I guess he means June of next year, and just started a customized gift and event planning business online. Please advise on how to get my business seen by those other than Facebook friends and coworkers.
Sure. One of the things you're going to do, first of all, thank you for your service. I mean, that is a heart that I have. I've got a son-in-law in the Army, so I know how this goes. And some really cool people have retired from the military. That being said, I would start with the groups section and go to the groups advanced search and look for military groups, for one thing. There's a really cool group that I'm a member of called We Hire Heroes. So they can help you promote your business as you go along because they have an affinity for what you have done and sacrificed for us in our country. And again, I would say that LinkedIn is going to be a great place for you to be. You can find some really cool businesses that are actually veterans organizations that would help promote your business. And I would imagine, quite frankly, if you're going to the group section, do an advanced search for veterans groups, that you're going to find some really cool veterans groups that you could be involved with.
Yeah, what did you say is 1.7 groups total?
1.7 million groups.
I would assume there's almost a group for everything at this point.
There probably is. I mean, there honestly probably is. And honestly, that's the cool thing about it is you can find your niche. And I'm sure, Brent, you're familiar with the long tail term. Yep. There's a lot of long tail information out there. In other words, there's a lot of small niche groups that, if you're starting out a new business like this gentleman is, I mean, you're basically going to look at it and say, you know what, if I have 100 customers next month, I'm happy. There may be groups out there where you can do that.
I don't know, you mentioned a number of things that people do wrong when they get started with this. And you mentioned a couple actually of the perceptions
Sure.
that people kind of have with LinkedIn. Are you seeing perceptions change as LinkedIn starts to move beyond kind of the traditional role it played in this social network sphere, so to speak, as you see them kind of moving out and adding pieces that were commonly more associated with Facebook? Are you seeing more opportunity for LinkedIn to move beyond the traditional?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the ways they're really doing is what is basically known as content sharing. And you being a CRM expert, I mean, you know how this works. But LinkedIn is really starting to position itself as someplace that folks will go to for business content. And thus, LinkedIn today is a good example, with wide variety of very important business thought leaders who are actually actively involved. And the other part of this that's changing for them is with almost 2 years ago now, them going public. They are becoming more of a mainstream social media business network where they're reported on by CBS News and when they have their earnings come out, things make a big difference for them. So they're more visible in that regard. The other thing that I take pride in is the fact that LinkedIn really is my network, but LinkedIn is never going to be the place where you're going to find information on what Miley Cyrus did this last week. It's really not about that. It's about helping other people and working together on businesses and finding really solid, relevant information that you can use day to day in your business life.
Hey, what about LinkedIn Answers? Is that something people are using successfully to build their LinkedIn reputation?
Brad, I'm going to interrupt you because they were, but they've removed that feature.
Okay, I was wondering because I hadn't heard about it in so long.
Answers was one of my favorite marketing tools, and I'm sorry to see it go. In particular, because when I would travel, I would send out a question that said, "Anybody in Boston or Atlanta? I'm going to be in Boston and Atlanta at this time, and I'd love to get together with you." That's one way to do that. And I actually would consult on how to write questions correctly, so you didn't get in big trouble on that. So Answers was one of those things. It was sacrificed for other new features that they have really built up, such as the company pages and the group areas that they're looking at.
Okay, so that's why that went away. Because I always thought that was a way that you could build your reputation pretty.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I would work with my consulting clients on subject matter expertise. I mean, that's really was a cool place to pose a question in such a way that you in fact come off as a subject matter expert.
Do you see Google Plus, because it seems to be a little bit more oriented towards business than Facebook? Do you see that growing in such a way that it could potentially rival LinkedIn, or do you see them maybe as complementary services at this point?
I think to a certain extent they're complementary. I know that LinkedIn at one point in time was toying with the idea of partnering with Skype. And the reason I bring that up is because Google Plus Hangouts are now becoming rather popular, and where you can actually have online chats and with multiple people. I mean, we could have done this one in particular because I think it's 100 is what we look at. We could have done this as a video chat. So Google, there's two things that need to be said here. Number one, Google owns the world. They are one of the most innovative and wealthiest companies in the world. So if they decide Google Plus is something that we need to pay attention to, we probably will, but only if the functionality is there, and now they're starting to build the functionality. Google Plus recently started to work hard on Google Plus company pages, for instance, where you can actually have a business page on Google Plus, and it is better. So you're right, I would see the segment being Google Plus and LinkedIn in the business marketplace.
Chuck, we are right at the top of the hour. Let me just thank you once again. Great webinar. Somebody asked if the presentation is going to be made available. We'll put those up on SlideShare, and we've been recording this whole webinar too, so we'll give you access to the recording. I will ask you to fill out in the email that I send out shortly, fill out a short survey just to give us some feedback on how you thought this went. We need that to keep continually bringing you the kind of webinars in this series that's going to help you, because the whole idea with this is to have these things, and then they end at 8 o'clock. At 8:01, you're actually able to take something out of this and use it right away. And there's no doubt in my mind that Chuck gave us more than one thing that we can do. I've already started looking at how I'm going to change my profile based on your personal suggestion to me, Chuck. So I really appreciate that. But you gave us a wealth of information. And thanks again for your time and for this presentation.
My pleasure, Brendan. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely. And folks, just remember that we do these every first Tuesday in the month, second Tuesday in the month. So the next TNT webinar will be Tuesday, October 8th. I'm going to ask for your help in choosing what the subject matter is going to be, so stay tuned for that. But thanks again for joining us tonight, and we look forward to having you next time. Thanks again.